Welcome again, ladies and gentlemen. We have a very interesting upcoming session with Mr. Nelson Cury from Brazil. A lot of subjects to cover. There's a book in the subject. There is a family channel that has dismantled businesses. There is a whole forum creation in Brazil, and how is it now helping generations sustain themselves. Thank you so much, Nelson, for being a guest with me here in today's podcast. I don't really know where to start. Probably some of history. And then did it take you all the way to write the book? And then how did it take you all the way to develop the Brazilian family businesses for?
Thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure, an honor. Yes, I think family business is a passion that I lived all my life. I'm one of the oldest grandchildren of my grandfather that immigrated from Lebanon in the beginning of last century. He arrived in Brazil, living in Lebanon because the empire, the Turkish empire, the Ottoman Empire, was taking over, and they decided to leave. And Brazil was the place because our imperator, the last emperor, Dom Pedro II, he wrote a letter about Brazil, that Brazil has the best quality of life and beauties, and then they decided to move to Brazil. They started there with nothing, and he started trading rice when he was very young with his brothers, and they built a trading rice company that ended up very well. With all the money they made, they started buying sugar mills in the state of São Paulo, where most of the sugar mills were located in the region. The business grew. My father moved. He was taking care of the rice business at that time. As the sugar mill became most of the important business in the family, my father moved to the countryside. I was very young. I remember I was only 3 years old. So I grew up in the field, knowing how to plant, how to manufacture, to trade, and I saw all the growing of the business. But unfortunately, we didn't have family governance at that time. I think it was something that was very young. So after my grandfather's death, my father took over the business, but he fought with my aunts and my uncles, and we have a division in the family business at that time. It was very difficult because I used to play with my cousins, and I used to stay in the farm during the vacation, and it was very hard because we started listening that that person was not good to talk anymore, and it was very difficult for me to separate the family from the business. It was kind of a melting pot in terms of emotions. So I decided to jump a little bit more in terms of what's going on in the business. I thought that was important to implement the family governance. And as I was the oldest family member from my family, I'm the oldest. I have another brother that is 50 years old, the second. And I have a third brother, and I have a sister. At that time, the family diversified very well. We have cattle, we have a construction company, we have a sugar mill, we have a trading, we have also supermarkets that was distribution the sugar and the ethanol. We have distribution company. So each of the members were kind of illustrating the family business. But when we decided to implement family governance and starting the family office, my father wanted that everybody was working in the main business, that was the sugar mill. So we decided to put all the eggs in the same basket.
Okay.
And we needed to sell the divisions to concentrate the business itself in one deal. So what I did, I started to make the divisions of the roles. My younger brother was taking care as a director of sales. The middle brother was in agriculture. I was in the financial, but everyone concentrated. And my sister much more in the structuring the family office. When the family succession took place, I was the oldest. I have the same name as my father. I was going to prepare to be the successor. He decided to took over the business again. I said, no, I don't want to leave. I was like around 4 years old at that time. And it was a very interesting conversation that I had with him, because I asked him, so how long do you think you will stay in the business? I said, maybe 10 years. Okay. And then he looked very serious, said, 20.
Okay.
And I thought, maybe 20 years old. I thought, well, I had 20 years more. I was with 40. I said, Father, I will be like 60. I don't want to be Prince Charles.
Okay, yeah, I got it.
I will be very old. I will not have the energy to take over.
Yeah.
So we had a difficult conversation, and then I decided to leave the business.
Okay.
But it was very tough for me, because he said, you're gonna face very many difficulties. Don't count on me on that time.
Okay, yeah.
So I help you, but not in the business anymore. I need to find out what I wanted to do.
Okay,
I decided to study.
Okay.
Went back to the university. I did my master's at INSEAD in Fontainebleau for 2 years. And I had get in touch with many family members there. They had family business meetings. And Ale Renoquian, that is very famous to have more families that more than 200 years old there.
Yes,
so
yes.
I could have contact with many families, histories and cases. And I thought, wow, teaching how they could survive and thrive for so many years. So why can I don't have this kind of business in Brazil? And my thesis became the succession or death of the family business.
Amazing.
And the impact of narcissist leadership in family business during succession planning. So was my thesis, became the book. And after I did my master's, I started my own business called the Brazilian Family Business Forum, that today is the main reference in family business in Brazil. So I'm doing this for the last 10 years. I'm the CEO, and I'm organizing events, meetings, and helping families not to go through what my family and I did, but mostly to teach, as you, how they can implement governance, succession planning, but mostly to become a family enterprise and a business investment family company, like a family equity firm, to diversify and survive in this new world. The book is in Amazon.
Okay.
You can download it in Kindle.
Yes, and what's the
It's
title
in English,
of the book?
Succession or Death of Family Business.
Amazing. Now, would you give me a summary, because
Okay.
the whole narcissism thing is super interesting. Would you give me a summary of what is it about? And what does it cover really?
The key thing is, because my professor, the first model that I saw, he was talking about the disease of the organizations in the world. He said the most problematic thing in the organizations in the world are the narcissist leadership. I say, wow, that's a very strong. He said that's a problem about the countries, about organizations. The narcissist leaders is good for the company, like growth, but when they achieve power is very problematic.
Okay.
So you need to implement family governance. And then I was thinking ahead, if in Brazil 90% of the families business are controlled by a family member, maybe the patriarch or the leader of the family have a narcissist trail. So I start interviewing many hairs.
Especially whether I have that. Okay, interesting. Okay.
I interview like 100 hairs.
Okay, interesting.
And the professor said, you are not a psychologist, you cannot say that this leader or that leader is a narcissist, but you can create a thesis about if the company doesn't have a successful succession, maybe because of the patriarch, how he educates or capacitates their heirs, there's a a trait that depending if the narcissist is a destructive narcissist trait, the family business will not survive.
Okay.
So I started interviewing many heirs and see if the company succeeded or not. And I create a questionnaire that in the end 100% of the family members that have a father or a patriarch or a matriarch that have narcissist leadership, the family business didn't survive.
Wow, that's a strong statement. That's a very strong statement.
So that's the book interview. I took only four.
I will have to read this book. Okay.
Only 4 members.
Okay.
Because I took the strongest stories.
Yes.
And I showed how they can survive having a narcissist leader in the family.
Okay.
So the book is mostly to avoid or to survive having a father or a patriarch or a leader in the company that have narcissist trait.
For the future generation in your family and probably your own, what's the plan for them? Or are they like, we are not interested in the family business?
No, I heard in the last podcast here that you need to have a glue in the family.
Okay.
And that's very important, the connection. I actually in the book I put the most challenging things in a family business. I call the 5 C's. First is communication.
Yes.
For me, most important thing in a family business is communication.
Yes, I agree.
Second is how to manage conflict. Because depending on communication, you can manage conflict or not. You can be a constructive conflict or a destructive conflict.
I agree.
The third that we are talking is the connection. How you transfer values to the next generation.
Okay.
So how depends on the patriarch or the matriarch, how he transferred the values, this connection doesn't exist. So the glue goes away.
Okay.
The fourth is the control. Who controls the business? Is it democracy?
Yes.
Or autocracy? One say everybody obeys, or everyone have a voice and they can, in consent, vote. And the last for me is the capacitation, that the one that I focus a lot in the Brazilian Family Business Forum. I work a lot with next generation to capacitate, not as you said before in your presentation here, about giving them like putting them in a good university, but giving them repertoire to be the protagonist of their own story, for them to have a musculature to face the world as it is, to be prepared to face a real deal in the business.
So hands-on.
So hands-on, as you said, you need to be prepared to face the challenge of this world that today is much more complex than it was in the past. Today we are living in not anymore in a VUCA world, we are in a poly-crisis world. You see crises all over the place. And people and other families can learn from the eyes of each other how that family did, how they survived, what's the instruments, what was the communication, what was the value that was transferred. So I like to present cases, live cases, for them to learn from each other. Network is also a very important tool, and relevant content, because when you bring content as a reference, they can also study. But in the fourth that we started doing a lot is to help them to be able to diversify the family business. Because if you put everything by own experience, because my book should be about what not to do. Everything that went wrong, we did it.
Understood.
We did it.
So as I would classically do, I'd ask you, if you have a time machine, and you'll go back in history, and you change a couple of things, what would that be in your family?
A very tricky question, but I think capacitation, to capacitate the family members. I would implement the family governance since the beginning, because I saw that when everybody was involved in the business with transparency, honesty, and you could share the values of the family, I think we could be able to everyone be joining today and investing in the new talents. The company could be much more bigger than it was today. So if I have a time machine, I would be investing in capacitation of the heirs much more, and implementing the family tools, family governance since the beginning.
How big is the forum now, by the way?
The forum is 10 years old now. We started doing events in the major cities of outside São Paulo. We have the main events in São Paulo, but we also do in the countryside where my family has business. We go to the other cities from the south to the north. So we have around 10 events per year, and it's by invitation only. So we have a very high pattern in terms of who can be on board. So it's only a family member can be on board, and pretty much like what Campden do, Campden Wealth. But we don't have a membership, so it's more kind of a club.
Okay.
That is, you are invited to participate, and you share your cases. So today we have around 5,000 family ultra high family members all over Brazil. That they somehow interact, or they share their cases, or we have a magazine also. We are launching our podcast. Maybe we can do some.
Definitely, we are sharing this with you.
Some collaboration.
Amazing.
But it's growing a lot. We are trying to launch an online platform as well to help other families to be able to see how other families thrive. So I'm having fun. I'm enjoying, and mostly important, I'm learning.
Yes, we can always learn. So a word of wisdom, and I think we'll have to meet again, definitely, and have another session.
Be passionate to what you do. Be passionate about it.
I see the passion, definitely.
Yes.
And I think you found your passion after so long.
Yeah.
And I think you live in a passion that tries to help others and adds value to people, which is amazing.
Is what you're doing here, the school, is when you teach, when you see the impact that you do in one person, that multiplies a lot. So I think if you have knowledge, if you have a good content, good heart to transfer these values and this knowledge to someone, is very impactful. So I'm very glad that I found my own passion, and also helping other families.
Thank you very much,
you.
Nelson.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it. Appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, sir.